Hey, it's Dave Wyman, Football 101. And first, I want to talk about Super Bowl 53 and some of the things that I saw in that game and the reason why the Patriots won that game. I thought going in, there was nobody worse with pressure on him than Jared Goff. Every time you get around his feet or hit him, and the Patriots ended up hitting him 12 times, sacked him 4 times. I thought Dante Hightower should have been the MVP. It was all about the New England defense. He got 2 sacks in that game and put a couple of hits on Jared Goff that just totally screwed him up. But one of the things that I noticed they brought 5 a lot. So that means, you're only dropping 6 guys. A lot of times you like to try to get there with 4, but I totally agreed with what Belichick, I think he saw the same thing I saw, putting myself in Bill Belichick's camp there. But I think he saw what I think a lot of people in the NFL saw, was that Jared Goff is not good under pressure. And one of the things that they ran, we're going to talk about later with Quentin Jefferson a couple of times, he got sacks, is a TE stunt, or they call it a Tex, and that's when you got a defensive end and a tackle here. And they call this spike. I learned this year. When a guy spikes, he goes in and tries to draw this block and try to influence this tackle to come with him. And then the defensive end goes up and then comes around. And that's how they got a couple of their sacks. Another way that they got it was that a lot of times this guy will get lost. And so what happens is, as they're starting to pass, when this tackle passes that spike move to the guy next to him, whether it's a tight end or a tackle, a lot of times if the tackle turns his body sideways, he can slip through. And Quentin Jefferson got a sack this year against the Rams. And I thought the Rams were susceptible to that kind of move. We saw that in LA against the Rams. Jefferson got a sack that way. But they did a lot of this stuff, and a lot of times they were coming 2 gaps over. So he would spike, and the end would come up and then come all the way around and get pressure. One of the things they ran, that it wasn't from a classic 3-4, but we used to run this when we ran a 3-4 when I played for the Seahawks. And here's your basic, very basic 3-4, where you got a tackle, a nose guard, a tackle, and then 4 linebackers just head up on the guards. And what we used to run it was called middle dog, strong cross. So what you would do is you get the end going this way. This backer would hit this gap and try to draw him, and then this guy would circle around and get pressure that way. And a lot of times it would come wide open, and the Patriots did that. And they weren't in like a classic 3-4, but they had their backers get up in the gaps, and there was a lot of just wandering around at the line of scrimmage. I thought the Ram offensive line was totally confused on who to block, but they kind of walked up here and they ran the same thing. It was maybe a weak cross. I can't remember if it was the strong side or the weak side, but same concept. Nose guard goes here, and this linebacker, which was Dante Hightower, went here, and then Van Noy came and looped around. And it was the same thing that Quentin Jefferson did. Hightower got kind of skinny right here. When he got here and was getting past to the center, he kind of turned his back to the center so he couldn't get his hands on him, and then was able to come through and get the sack. So they did a really good job, I thought, of putting pressure on Jared Goff and throwing him a lot of different fronts and guys wandering around at the line of scrimmage. It was cool to watch. Let's talk about the Seahawks defensive line, speaking of that. And this year they got 43 sacks. They were number 11 in the NFL. I thought they needed to get 39 or 40, because that's what they've averaged since Bobby and Russell got here. In 2012, they've averaged about 39 sacks. And they were able to get 4 more than that. And a lot of it was, there was Justin Coleman got a half a sack. Michael Kendricks got a couple of sacks. But the main guys in the pass rush this year, by the way, opponent quarterback rating was 94, number 19. Not great, but that has to do with the defensive backs as well. But Frank Clark obviously is up for a big contract, 13 sacks. I thought he's one of the best, maybe top 10 rushers in the NFL. This is really amazing that Jarran Reed was able to do that. 10.5 sacks is really hard to get double-digit sacks. I think there's only been 3 defensive tackles in Seahawk history that have done that. One, Cortez Kennedy, and the other one, John Randall. And I mentioned Quentin Jefferson and how good I thought he was. This guy right here to me was Jacob Martin. Number 59 was my favorite player this year to watch as a rookie. He improved so much, and these 3 sacks, I think, came in the second half of the season. He just got better and better and better. So he's eventually going to be a good edge rusher. So, I would say as far as pass rush goes, I'm going to give these guys a B+. I thought it was really good. Like I said, they were number 11. There was a lot of, I think the Chiefs had 52 sacks this year. The run is where it was, I'm not going to give as good of a grade. 113 yards they gave up was only the 13th best, which isn't terrible, but their average, they gave up 4.9 yards per carry, and that was third worst in the NFL. And as far as giving up 20 plus runs, they were in the bottom third. So D-line is a big part of defense, and I know that they're in the process of signing some run-stopping type of defensive tackles that you can see are big guys that clog up the middle. But I'm going to have to give them a C- there as far as run defense goes, because we're giving out grades for every position group. But overall, I thought Seahawks defensive line was a surprise. And keep your eye on Jacob Martin. We did a little time capsule on our show. I said I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl pass rusher next year.